Hey guys, it's Dr. Bickling from Own It Dental. Today we're going to talk about building trust. In the past couple of videos, we talked about the awareness and concern and the different categories that the dentistry might fall into. We talked about our typical dentist technique of educating patients and informing them, and that just serves to move them this way. It doesn't do anything to move them this way. And a patient's brain won't get up there because there's an emotional thing stopping them from getting there, and that emotional thing is called the objection. We talked about the 4 common objections in dentistry, how to anticipate them, here they are, validate them, and eliminate them. Personally, I believe there's only one objection in dentistry, and that's trust. And so that's what we're going to get in today, talk about building trust. As I mentioned, in the past, and there's our common technique for case acceptance is educating, informing, raising dental IQ, building value, and all of that stuff. However, there's some commonly held statistics that I've heard from experts such as Howard Ferran and others that for every $1,000 worth of diagnosed dentistry that walks through your door, only about 1/3 of it is actually treated. In my opinion, that's terrible. What other discipline of medicine does 100% of X need to be done and only 30% gets treated? And in my opinion, that's a failure on our part. If 70% of diagnosed dentistry is just walking around out there still in a state of disease. Another statistic that I got from the country's largest marketing firm is that for every field hygiene appointment, the average dentist produces about $700. But when I was practicing chairside dentist, I would do almost triple that. And the main reason is that I understand that I see things a little bit differently. I understand that the real objection in dentistry is trust. And when the patient does trust us, then we can move forward with the educating, the informing, and the raising the dental IQ so that we can get the treatment done. So as we get into this, I want to talk about a couple of books that were very important to me in discovering this. The first one is called The Code of Trust by Robin Dreeke. Robin Dreeke is a former CIA counterintelligence agent, and his job was to give misinformation to Russian spies. Now, Russian spies are trained that if they don't know you, not to trust you, and immediately to assume you're a spy and immediately cease contact with you. So his job was to give disinformation to somebody that's trained to not trust him. So they have a saying in the CIA. The saying is, shields down, information in. And so in other words, he's got to get the spy to trust him so that he can get the shield down before he can get the information in. And that's not dissimilar to a new patient walking in your door that may not trust you. They have a shield that's up. And again, our typical technique is to educate, inform, and explain, but what's happening is those words are just bouncing off the shield. We have to get the shield down first before we can get the information in. Another book is called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator. And if you think about his job, if a terrorist takes 10 hostages and wants, $10 million in return and a helicopter to get him out of there, he can't really split the difference. Anything less than a 100% case acceptance is a 100% failure. He can't go, well, why don't you give me 5 hostages, we'll give you $5 million, and you can kill the other 5, right? That's a failure in the hostage negotiation profession. So he has to have a 100% case acceptance and or success rate when it comes to hostage negotiating. In other words, he's got to get that terrorist to release all of the hostages for nothing. And the number one tool that he says he uses in doing so is what he calls tactical empathy. Empathy is defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So in other words, he basically puts himself in the terrorist's shoes. He lets that terrorist know that he understands where he or she is coming from. I didn't say he agreed with them, but I said he understands where they're coming from. That sounds a lot like validating somebody's objection, doesn't it? You know, the word empathy is a Greek word, em meaning in, and pathy coming from pathos, meaning disease. So he's literally putting himself in the other person's disease. And you know, we kind of think of the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. I want us to think about that a little differently. We shouldn't do unto them as we would have done unto ourselves. We should do unto them as they would have done unto them. I oftentimes hear dentists say that, you know, we treat our patients like a family member. And my first response is, do they get the family discount? And my second response is, you know, you really shouldn't treat them as if you would treat a family member. You should treat them the way they want to be treated. You should understand their position and what their objections are and what's going on in their lives, and then build a treatment plan that meets those needs. When we empathize with somebody and they see us empathize with them, oxytocin is released in their brain. Right? We all know oxytocin. It's a neurotransmitter, oftentimes known as the cuddle hormone. But that is the key element in building trust with patients. You know, if we put ourselves in their shoes and they see that we understand their position, their fear, their time constraints, their financial constraints, and we validate it, that's what brings the shield down. So, you know, when I was talking about anticipating, validating the objection, you know what, you're right. If a patient says to us, you know, man, I'd love to get it done, but I'm scared of the dentist. Don't go, there's nothing to be scared of. You say, you know what, you're right. This can be scary, but here are the things that we can do to help you get past that or help you with that fear. If a patient says, man, that's expensive, you know, don't think of it as expense, think of it as an investment. You know, don't invalidate their objection, validate their position. You're right, it can be expensive, but here are the things that we can do to help you get this paid for. You know, man, that sounds like it's going to take a lot of time. You know what, you're right, it could, but here are the things that we can do to help speed the process along and maybe work with your schedule. You know, so validating a person's objection or a person's perspective, it's just like the hostage negotiation. You're not necessarily agreeing with them, but you're seeing the opinion from their perspective and you're validating their perspective. And like I said, that's what's going to release the oxytocin in their brain, and that's what's going to bring the shield down before we can put the information in. I had a hard and fast rule in dentistry when I was giving treatment plans, is I never spoke about dentistry until I saw the physical manifestation of the oxytocin being released in their brain, until I saw the shield come down, and then I could speak about dentistry. Because the reality is that patients really don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to talk more about neurotransmitters and how to help them release in the patient's brain to gain trust in future episodes. But the next thing you have to do is stop being yourself. I'll explain what that means next time. I'll see you soon. It was great seeing you.